Good evening. This is Barbara, the East Coast Dragon Lady, coming to you with the weekly update. I got a little bit out of sync. I've been doing my video blogs with the Vatican Dragons, and I wanted to, and over the weekend I just had some other things going on in the home, and I didn't get around to it. I did actually do the cards for the week. I thought while I'm on, I'll pull a couple of cards for tomorrow. I did, as you know, every day I post on my private Facebook page. And thank you to those of you that have recently joined my Facebook page. And for those of you that have joined my YouTube channel. And a few of you are reaching out, so thank you very much. Just as a reminder, if you don't follow me on my Facebook page, that I offer a 45-minute clarity call, which is really for us to talk. Sometimes people have questions about dragons, or some questions about what services that I can provide, or what the dragons, bring in. There's all sorts of things that we can do. So I offer that free for a 45-minute call. So if you're interested in that, you can email me at eastcoastdragonlady@gmail.com. I'm gearing up for this Friday, the 13th. I'll be out in East Hampton and Northampton Friday and Saturday, an in-person event. I'm going to be with Drakey Soul on Friday, and on Saturday I am going to be the guest speaker, all things dragons. I know the Vatican Dragons are going to come up, lots of other things. So if you get a chance, you can join me there. I did put the flyer up. I will put it up again. But I know a lot of my followers are not even in Massachusetts. So, and I don't think that's going to be recorded. We have talked about it. But that's an exciting event for me. I'm going to take my Oracle deck out there. I'm going to do some readings. I'm going to do some channeling. So that's important. I think it's great that it's Friday the 13th as well. And I really don't know what's going to happen. So I will fill you in probably this time next week about how that event went. Just some interesting things have happened as I've become more, I feel like my vibration has raised, definitely going through some internal transformations, the work that I'm doing, what's actually coming to me. So I find this fascinating. So as you know, I have a crow now that has visited me, Gerald, and he appeared. I didn't see him today, but I did. So other things have been showing up, and this just made me laugh so much this morning. And nobody was around for me to share with until I saw my sons this evening. But I was sitting, I'd fed the birds, and usually then I sit and eat my breakfast, and I could hear this tapping. It was, tap, 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 tap. And I was like, what is that? And I looked, and the chipmunk was actually at my patio doors, the slider, and he was tapping on the window. He was going tap, 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 and looking at me like, well, where are my sunflower seeds? And I guess usually when I put out the feed for the birds, I mix some sunflower seeds in, but I haven't been doing so much because it's that time of year where rats and all the unwanted things come. So there wasn't any on the ground, I guess, but he was literally tapping on my door, like looking at me like, well, where are they? So I'm like, okay, there's something vibrationally is shifted hugely for the raven to show up. Now the chipmunk, and I've had some different birds. Actually, I saw some hummingbirds, which I don't have feeders for the hummingbirds, but they've been around. But a bluebird showed up this year. And tonight when I was eating dinner, the pileated woodpecker came. So I'm in the northeast of the United States. I'm around here's a lot of woodland. I'm sort of semi-rural, I guess you would say. So they're sort of decent sized woodpeckers with very red, like, the cardinal red. But he likes to come to my feeders for the nuts. So interesting. but we often hear him pecking away there. I have some smaller hairy woodpeckers. They like to come to the feeders as well, and they like to the fence as well. So it's sort of interesting how that, and I've lived here 10 years. And I think it's, well, all we have is, I just have a cat, it's an indoor cat. And then she's changed. So since I lost my dog a month or so ago, she is really coming to, she's become extremely vocal. And so I always think of her as my son's cat. She's sort of, I got her during COVID. So she comes from Texas, so I call her the Texas Princess. But today I actually had to go to a meeting this morning, which I had to drive an hour there and an hour back. And when I got back, I was in the middle of a meeting. I was doing that multitasking where I'm driving, I'm on the phone with another meeting. And I walked in the house and I came straight up to my workspace and turned on my computer so I could go on there. And then all of a sudden, if it was a cartoon, my cat would have burst in the door. And she made the loudest I've ever heard her. I mean, a real high-pitched yowl at me, went on and on and on. And then she jumped up on the bed, which was near me, and laid down and went to sleep. So I think she was telling me off because my son, it was his day off today, and he had actually gone into work for a few hours. So she was without her humans, and I think she was just mad at us. But she has been extremely vocal. And what we found interesting is a couple of years ago, I had a couple of rescue senior cats. One came to me because the owner had died. There were 3 cats, and the owner had died unexpectedly. And she was the older of them, I think. She had actually had her leg amputated from cancer. So I always lined up with something that needs fixing. And I thought she was 13, and I thought she really deserved a few more years, which we got a couple more years out of her before she deteriorated. She just was old, and she had some ulceration in her mouth. But she had a blanket on the bed that she used to like. And my cat, the princess, now comes up and that's the blanket she lays on. So, and this vocal, the old boy, I used to call him, his name was Lydell. He was part Siamese and he talked all day. Whoever was around, he would talk to you. And she's sounding like him. So we think that these 2 cats are like there's the spot you go and lie on. And this is what you do for attention, because they will do things with you. Now, she will not let me pick her up. My son picks her up. She will not let me pick her up. I don't know what that's about. So if we're going to the vets, my son has to put her in the carrier. I think that I am somewhat shy of, I've had many cats over the years, but I had one particular cat that actually put me in the hospital. I got cat scratch fever, and I've always been very nervous around having to scoop up a cat and put them in the carrier, because that's what she did. She was a little cat, and she managed to go right up my arm, bit between my fingers, which I didn't know at the time, and scratch me. I was more worried about scratches, and within 12 hours, I was in the hospital with very swollen hands. And I was there for 5 days, I think. Yeah, because I had a fever and they weren't quite sure. And the antibiotics weren't working. Oh, my luck. So I'm always a little bit nervous about putting cats in carriers, unless I can pick them up nicely and put them in, which the older cats I could. But this feisty young one, I couldn't. So yeah, I'd gone away from that, but I really thought it was fascinating that, and I think, so I was listening today to a podcast where they were talking about if we're not listening to the media, if we're not paying attention to all the hype, all the chaos, all the stuff that's going on, which I'm not. I am getting my messages from my dragons, from the angels, the archangels, all those people that come in. I'm not interested. It's one of these things that we have to go through. I have faith we're going to get through it. I felt very reassured. It was an hour, it was over an hour podcast. And I just felt very reassured that what I was doing, and lots of us, and you're probably one of them, we're not watching the main news. If I need to know it, somebody's going to tell me, or I'm going to read it accidentally. I try not to fall into that. If I'm looking at Facebook, I try to go past those things, but sometimes something will catch my eye. So that's sort of, I feel that has been the advice I've been given, and that's what I've been doing. And the other thing I found Friday, and I think when I posted something, I said I was on a roll Friday. So believe it or not, I have always been somebody, a lot of stuff has happened in my life that has made me sometimes afraid to speak up, or when I have spoken up, or things I can think of, when I've asked for help, people will look at me and say, why do you need help? Because it takes, for a lot of us, it takes a lot to say, I need help. And then people have said, well, why do you need help? You're doing okay. So I've been really working on letting go of a lot of things, a lot of forgiveness. Even if you've forgiven, forgive again. But I've been working on that and being more like standing in my power and, feeling that powerful woman that I know I am. And I've been very proud of myself because Friday I had to do it at least 3 times, was to stand in my power and speak my truth. And it was it was almost intoxicating. After the first time that I didn't get pushback, because usually when I have a chance to say something, I can be very passionate and people will just shut down, or they'll be like, that's not appropriate to talk about now, or, all of those excuses. I also, something I knew, and again, this is my intuition, I knew something was coming up, that I was going to be, what do we call it, voluntold. I was going to be asked to do something that I adamantly did not feel that I wanted to do, that I didn't have any buy into it. And I'm like, I am not going to agree to that. So I already had that there. And instead of me actually facing it today, an email went out. And of course, I was named as, well, the next blah, blah, that would be Barbara. And I was like, no, it won't. And I'll address it now. And I said my piece, which was why. And I surprisingly got an email back saying, thank you for your honesty and being open, which made me sort of like, whoa. I then, the position that I'm in, I use my, what we call lived experience. And somebody really used, how can I put it without being, they asked me to go to a meeting, but they described the reason I was going completely wrong. And I spoke up. I said, that is not my position. That is not my job. And I explained who I was. I'm in a consultant position where if there's family things going on or they want my opinion, I get invited in. And I said that to her. I said, you know that I'm in a consulting position with my lived experience. And again, I got an apology. I was like, whoa, that's big. So it sort of made me realize that, and again, it's how we say it, it's words. I've been given that gift a few years ago. I was given the gift of seeing the power behind words. And it's taken me a while to figure out, rather than saying, oh, I just won't address it, because I am, I'll bury my head in the sand rather than cause trouble. But I was like, no, the times come when, and this I think is about what's also going on in the world, that if we all did that, if we all put our head in the sand, nothing would happen. So it is about standing our ground. So I'm hearing stand your ground. And if you've been watching any of my card pulls, a lot of the times it's about standing our ground, and speaking up, use our voice. And if you've watched any of these things that I do, these podcasts, whatever, often my voice goes, it gets crackly. I can't shift it, but I don't give in. And I've been determined that whatever is trying to stop me from using my throat chakra is not going to happen. And I can only do that by being my true self. So I've learned a lot in a very short period of time. I've also learned that it's really important to go with your intuition, really important to go with what you hear, with what you're given. And this goes along with, seeing the Vatican dragons, getting the message from them, having it confirmed from various sources, and listening to my dragons, listening to the raven, listen to the crow, listen to all that information that's coming at me, and putting it in order, because what I've been told about this, at some point I am going to find, or there's going to be some sort of information I'm going to come across that is really important. It's ancient, it's elder wisdom. To me, it feels it might be around the covenant, it might be around what other things are buried under the Vatican. I'm not sure. But what I do know is that when I get those messages, I will go with it. So having had, 3 times this week, I've jumped on for about 5-10 minutes. After that, it's been quiet for a while because, again, they've told me that there's groundwork that I have to do to prepare. So I think after this weekend, there will be some other shift. So it does come in. I've found when I've done other things that I'll get, there'll be 2 or 3 days when I'll get intense amount of information and then nothing, and then another amount of intense information. So I'm going to assume that's how I get those. They're usually channeled stuff. So it's still exciting because I'm learning history. There's a lot of things that I didn't know. I also posted about nuns versus sisters. So in the nunnery, I think that's what you call it. But in, nuns always take a vow. And when I was reading it, I really felt this, a vow of poverty, a vow of celibacy, and I've forgotten the other one. But where you're not superior at all. What I was interested which I realised, which I connected together when I was a nurse back in England. Once you were a charge nurse, you were called a sister, and it obviously came from the church, from the Catholic Church, because they have nuns who are really committed, whereas the sisters are more out in the community. Obviously, they still have their vows, but they do more community work, and they're often nurses, all of those sort of things. So there's a lot of things lining up for me. We're also just been through the 6/6 portal. I had 2 or 3 days of really intense pressure in my head. We also had thunderstorms here, so there was a lot of that stuff going on. But I think that's all. I'm going to pull some cards for Tuesday, and I'm really loving these goddess cards that I got. And of course somebody found that there's a Ravens deck, so I think that's coming tomorrow. So I will feature that when that comes, because I think there's lots of messages from the Ravens. But now I think I've got a chipmunk as my power animal as well. I wish he was so quick I couldn't get a picture of him, but I'll have to look out for him tomorrow. Because the birds seem to know what time I get up and what time I feed them. I do get up usually about the same time, but they're usually sitting there waiting for their food. So let's see what goddess. Oh, this is interesting. This one has come up a few times. Damara, guiding children. You are good at helping, counseling, and healing children. Use your skills to help children now. So I work in the Department of Mental Health in the Child, Youth and Family Division. So that really could be talking about the work I'm doing there. That's my lived experience. I've talked about how when my kids were younger, or certainly in their teens, both were diagnosed with mental illness. Nematona, Sacred Space. That's a pretty card. And the message is, create an altar or visit a power place to connect with the divine. Well, I have 2 altars I posted the other day. I have one here with my painted rocks, and then I have one up here. I called them my late spring altars. I do, this last year, I've been changing them around at least twice a year. Usually when it's a full moon, I'll put the crystals outside. I've been saging them. I've been saging a lot of my bracelets and things like that. I've got a smudge spray, because I can't, there's some places you can't get out with smudge stick. So I use this spray. I like this. So this is sage, white sage, Reiki charge sage. Today, when I went to my meeting where I needed some goddess energy, this was the warrior goddess energy. It's Amanda, her sprays from England. I haven't bought any for a while, but also, the import tax is probably going to make it more expensive. So they're the 2. Let's see what the fairies have to say. So I can feel my voice going now, because I've just talked about all the things that I've worked really hard to achieve. Oh, and the other thing that I've started to do, which is something I know that I've put off for years, is doing inner child work. It's time. As I've said, I've done all that forgiving. I've done a lot of work around that. But there's a part of my inner child work. And when I was working with Casca the other day, it was very clear that it was abandonment. I mean, that was the word that came to me, because, I named all the important people, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's abandonment. Which, when I say that, I can feel that I'm going to say deep down in my soul. I mean, my soul really reacts to that word, abandonment. And I think that I've put it off for a very, very long time. It was a bit like shadow work as well. It was like, well, we'll just go around that. I'll go and do that work. Shadow work, yeah, I don't really want to look at that. So let's just go around that as well. But eventually you have to do it. And it really feels like it's time. I'm hearing you've got your ducks in a row. Yeah. It does feel like that. It feels like, and for those of you that are much younger, we have to do it I'm hearing it's perfect timing. And for me, I needed to go through all the things I went through, because for every, and again, this was in the podcast I was watching, it was for like every bad thing or every negative thing that happened, we make a huge step, like they're lessons. And I have been, for the most part, there have been some times that, I've had the pity party, but for the most part, I always think of what is the lesson I'm supposed to learn, or what was that about? And for the longest time, it's been about me standing in my power and being the powerful woman that I was born to be, that was denied from my birth, from the minute that I was born. My mother decided that I was not born on Friday the 13th, that I was born on Friday, on Saturday the 14th. In England, you go and register your children, so you can say whatever you like. I don't know if that's changed now. I don't have a time of my birth, but from the stories she's told me, she was determined that she was not going to have a child born on the 13th, because she was very superstitious. But the story she tells, I clearly was born on Friday the 13th. I always feel that that's my birthday. So another interesting thing there. Whereas with my kids, I know exactly what time they were born, right? It's written down. Honouring your true feelings. So this came up as well. This has come up. So again, this is what I'm talking about honouring our true feelings. Oh, the fairies, yeah, they always get it right. Visualization, so I was just talking about that, right? Visualization has become very strong for me. Like I can get, if I think about something, like I was just given the address of where I'm going on Friday and Saturday, and I immediately saw in my mind's eye where I was going, and then I found a photograph of the street it's on, and I was like, wow, I knew I was going there. Awakening to your true self. See, this is all confirming. So this is what the fairies do. When I was doing some readings last weekend, when I pulled out the fairy cards, they confirmed for the person sitting in front of me. Oh, inner power. See? I like that. Inner power. Let's do one more. I love these fairy cards. I don't know what that one means, and I'm not going to talk about that. That's another one I probably have to go and do some more work on. Oh, and family harmony. So there we go. Family harmony. That I know with that it's, and I have it on another deck as well, and it talks about people being well in your family, people being, it's not just about harmony, like everybody getting on. But my oldest son, I do try his patience, if he ever hears this. Yesterday, I always have these great ideas, and then when something happens, so I'm not the best at putting things together. I mean, I've been divorced for 25 years, so I've been pretty independent woman. For the longest time, I didn't have both my boys living with me. I've always had Rich living with me, but Rob not. So my younger son, Rich, needed a new closet rack, and he had one that was falling apart. So I decided on the one that looked the easiest to put together. It looked like you just like put all these things in, and you know that. You think, this is easy, it's not too many parts, we can do it. So of course it arrived on Sunday. It meant to come on Saturday, it arrived on Sunday. We pulled out the box, and there were bits and pieces and poles and things, and I'm like, nope, I can do this, because I can get very determined. Nope, I'm not going to ask for any help, I'm going to do it. After about 40 minutes, I was ready to throw it all out the window and say, we'll go some other route, because also we'd thrown out his old one. And then I said, just wait a minute. So I sent him to ask his brother, because Rob had been to work all day. And I said, could you just go and ask him when he has time? So he came up and he looked at me, and I'm like, I'm just going to say, like, I thought this was going to be easy. I'm sorry, I'm old. So my latest thing, whenever they like question me, I go, what can I tell you? I'm getting old. So not really an excuse, but that's my excuse to them. It took him about 40 minutes, so it wasn't straightforward. So another lesson learned. It's been a couple of times I've done that. Oh, look, Brother Dragon, fearless and brave. So this doesn't always mean this is the Brother Dragon is bringing through fearless and brave card. So that's the dragons helping us be fearless and brave. Oh, actually, I just remembered as well. I thought, I have to remember to put this on my updates. Usually when I get in the car to go more than just a few miles, I always go, okay, dragons up. Somebody on the car. I had the funniest dragon today, and if I was laughing to myself in the car. Oftentimes they like to wrap their tails around my car and sort of like hang on, and sometimes they do the wee, and they're silly. This one was a cowboy. I had a cowboy dragon with a big cowboy hat on and a lasso. And as we're driving down, he's trying to like lasso cars. And he was going, yeehaw. And I thought, maybe I'll get a different one on the way back. Nope, same one. He was sitting on my car waiting for me. So if anybody that was on 495 today and saw a crazy woman in a car with a dragon on the top, that was my Texas dragon. I think it was because I was talking to my cat before I left. I always say, oh, your Texas princess. Oh, is it cold today for you? Because she likes the hot weather. Well, she's more acclimated to here, but often when it's a hot day, I say, oh, you're like today, it's hot. Oh, and Merlin. So here's good old Merlin. He's come up with the listen card. So he's saying, and I think I did this on my message this morning, was about listening to ourselves, listening to that inner voice. He always says, this is often when he comes up, it's about not second guessing, right? So what you hear is what you hear. Don't second guess it. That's what he's saying. All right, you want one more card. And this is, the sister dragons. So we've got the divine male and the divine feminine. The bond is never broken. So if you've got sisters or a sister, this is for you. This is about that bond that is never broken. And for those of us that don't have sisters, it's there's still that love comes to us from the sister dragon. The sister is what I call it, the sister. This is for so often, so many times, we don't have the brother or the sister. And actually, when I was doing the readings last weekend, I saw a lot of imbalance of the male and female. So for some people, I got all masculine cards, which they needed that balanced, right? They had too much divine feminine, so they needed some divine masculine. And I saw it both ways. So interesting that come up. All right, they're saying one more. So, the wind dragon. So yes, he would come up. So we have, where I am in the northern part of Massachusetts, I'm almost in New Hampshire, we have smoke from the Canadian wildfires. And today when I was driving out to central Mass, it was just this haze. And it was almost like, sometimes when you get smear on your glasses, I kept wanting to clean my glasses, and I realized it was the smoke hanging from those wildfires. Our air quality is not good. And actually I wear a Fitbit, and my oxygen levels have been lower, I should say, not low, lower than they normally are. I'm normally at least 100%. And I've seen on some days that it's been down to 95. Apparently that's nothing to worry about. I've already Googled that. Because I forget sometimes that I am in that category, that I have to be, like when it says disabled and the elderly, that, as my son says, that means you, Mum. Because I forget. I don't feel my age. I feel like I should have another 50 years to go. Well, maybe I will. I just don't feel that I am the age that I know I am. I mean, I know people have asked me, are you sure you're that age? But that's my genes, I think. So, all right. So as I'm almost losing my voice, I am going to go. If I get any more information from the Vatican Dragons between now and Friday, I will come back on again. Otherwise, if you would like a reading from me, if you'd like to just check in with me, some of you have got some information you said you want to share with me around the Silas, the seagulls. I keep calling them Silas, the seagulls. So, yeah, I think that's the seagulls, the protection, I don't know where I get the Silas from. I have to look that up. Seagulls. I've done mine, but some of you have said that you have information on that, that you have memories of past lives at the Vatican, in Rome, wherever. So if you do have that information, it's just confirmation of the information I'm getting, and I'm new at all of this, so it really does help. And if I ever write a book, you'll be mentioned in it. Who knows? I mean, I said last time, I think there's a book. I've said that before and then it hasn't panned out. So let's see. At some point I will retire and then I'll have time on my hands. So have a good evening, have a good week, and I'll be back soon.